America drew exactly one hard line in this entire war. Not two, not a dozen, one. It did not matter how many bridges were bombed. It did not matter how many tankers caught fire in the Gulf. On this single point, Washington was absolute, and it said so in public, in writing, more than once. Iran will never be allowed to charge money to ships passing through the Strait of Hormuz. No tolls, no fees, not now, not in any final deal. The most powerful navy on earth was standing in that water to make sure of it. And then, without firing a shot, Iran started charging. New fees on ships moving through the strait, announced openly. But here is the detail that should make you sit up. Iran did not charge everyone the same way. It created a special category, a protected list. And near the top of that list, getting what Iran itself described as special considerations, was China. Every headline read this the same way. Another Iranian provocation, another line crossed, another day in a messy war. And that reading is wrong. Not a little wrong. Completely wrong, because what happened in that strait was not Iran defying America. It was Iran quietly handing China a gift paid in the one currency that actually matters at a place like Hormuz. And Iran handed it over while American warships watched, and there was nothing those warships could do about it. Today I'm going to show you three things. First, what China actually received. Not the fee story on the surface, but the real prize underneath it. Second, why Iran gave it to China now, at this exact moment in the war, and not a month earlier or a month later. And third, why the one thing Washington swore was impossible has now quietly become permanent, and why almost nobody has noticed. By the end, you will not see a confusing war headline anymore. You will see a clean move on a chessboard, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Welcome to The Power Map. I am Professor Ray Calder. Here we do one thing. We ignore the shouting and we follow the power. We look at the map, we look at who needs what, and we ask a simple question. Who gains? When you ask that question honestly, the fog clears every time. I have spent months tracking where all of this is heading. The conflicts, the energy shocks, and the slow handover of power that is happening right now between the old order and the new one. I put the whole framework into a short guide called The Quiet Handover. If you want it, the link is in the description. Let me lay out the facts first, cleanly, because the meaning only makes sense once you have the sequence straight. Earlier this year, after months of fighting, the United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding. A framework meant to wind the war down. One of its terms was simple and specific. For 60 days, commercial ships would pass through the Strait of Hormuz for free. No charges. A cooling off window. That window mattered because the strait had become the center of the whole war. This is the narrow stretch of sea at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. In normal times, about 1/5 of all the world's oil and gas moves through it. When the war began, Iran closed it. Then Iran declared it controlled it. Then the fighting settled into a long, tense standoff over who really decides which ships get to pass. So the free passage window was a pause. And as that pause ran toward its end, everyone was waiting to see what Iran would do next. Here is what Iran did. Speaking in Beijing at an international forum, Iran's own ambassador to China announced that ships crossing the strait would now be charged new fees. And then he added the line that changes everything. He said that China and other friendly countries would receive special considerations. Not the same treatment as everyone else, special treatment. A discount, a priority, a protected status, sitting inside a brand new system that Iran was building with the help of its neighbor Oman. Iran even began setting up an authority, an official body, to run the strait and collect the fees. A toll booth with a government behind it. And the United States had already answered this exact question in advance. Months earlier, American officials had told China directly in a phone call between the two countries' top diplomats that no nation would be allowed to charge tolls in that strait. The State Department repeated it in public. This was the red line. This was the promise. Iran crossed it anyway. And it crossed it not with a threat aimed at China, but with a favor aimed at China. Sit with how strange that is for a second. The thing America said would never happen just happened. And the country that benefits most from it happening is the one country America is most worried about, which brings us to the question that unlocks everything. Why China? Iran could have charged everyone equally. A flat fee applied to all would still have broken America's red line. It would still have made Iran money. So why go out of the way to name China? Why announce it in Beijing of all places? Why build a special category and put China at the front of it? Countries do not hand out favors by accident, especially not countries fighting for their lives. When a nation at war spends effort to give another nation something, it is not being generous. It is buying something. It always is. So the real question is not, what did China get? The real question is, what is Iran buying with it? Answer that, and the whole picture opens up. Let us start with what China got, because it is bigger than a discount on a shipping fee. Think about China's single greatest weakness. Not its economy, not its military, its energy. China is the largest importer of oil on the planet, and a huge share of that oil arrives by sea through narrow waters that China does not control and cannot defend. For decades, this has been the nightmare that keeps Chinese planners awake. If someone ever chokes those sea lanes, the lights in China start going out. The factories slow. The whole machine stalls. The Strait of Hormuz is one of those choke points, maybe the most important one. Now look at what just happened. Iran, the country that physically sits on that strait, the country that can open it or close it, has publicly promised China safe, priority passage. In writing, in front of the world, Iran has taken China's greatest fear and, at least here at this one vital gate, removed it. That is the real prize, not a cheaper fee. Guaranteed access, certainty at the exact spot where China had none. And there is a second prize, quieter but just as valuable. By accepting Iran's special treatment, China is also accepting Iran's authority over the strait. China is treating Iran's toll booth as legitimate, as real, as the new normal. And when the second largest economy on earth treats your toll booth as legitimate, it becomes legitimate, no matter what Washington says. China's acceptance is a stamp of approval that money cannot buy. So China walked away with two things: security at its weakest point, and the power to make Iran's control of the strait a settled fact. That is what special considerations really mean. To feel the weight of this, you have to picture the map. Hold the Persian Gulf in your mind. It is a long body of water, closed at one end by land, open at the other end by a single narrow gap. That gap is the Strait of Hormuz. At its tightest, it is only about 20 miles of navigable water, with Iran sitting along the entire northern coast, and a string of small islands that Iran uses like fixed guard posts watching over the lane. Through that 20-mile gap flows the lifeblood of the modern world's energy, and here is the part the headlines skip. Most of that oil does not sail west to America. America now produces most of what it needs at home. The oil that pours through Hormuz sails east, to China, to India, to Japan and South Korea. It feeds the industrial heart of Asia. So the strait is not really an American lifeline anymore, it is an Asian one. And the country standing over it, with the guard posts and the missiles and the fast boats, is Iran. Now you understand why a promise from Iran about that strait is worth so much to China. It is not a promise about a shipping route, it is a promise about whether the lights stay on. So back to our real question. What is Iran buying with this gift? Iran is buying a partner it cannot survive without. Understand Iran's position. It is at war with the most powerful country on earth. Its ports are blockaded, its economy is strangled by sanctions. It cannot win this fight with weapons alone, and its leaders know it. So Iran is playing a different game entirely. It is making itself too useful to lose. Here is the logic. Step by step, Iran controls a gate that China desperately needs to stay open. Instead of threatening China with that gate, Iran throws it open for China and locks it for others. In doing so, Iran is sending a message that no phone call could ever carry. The message is, your survival runs through my hands. And look, I am choosing to protect you. That is not a threat. That is a sales pitch. And it is the most powerful kind of sales pitch there is, because it is proven by action, not words. Iran is not telling China, trust me. Iran is showing China in real time, in real water, exactly how valuable a friend it can be. And there is a bonus for Iran hidden inside the fee itself. Every ship that pays to cross that strait is proof that Iran, not America, is the one setting the rules there now. Each payment is a small, quiet defeat for Washington's red line. Iran gets money, Iran gets respect, and Iran gets a powerful partner, all from one move. Restraint, it turns out, is the most valuable thing a country can sell when it controls something the whole world needs. Iran just sold restraint to China, and the smart viewer is already pushing back. Let me answer the objection honestly, because I do not want you to follow this logic blindly. I want you to follow it because it holds up. The objection goes like this. Come on, Professor, it is a shipping fee, a discount for a big customer. Businesses do this every day. You are turning a receipt into a grand strategy. It is a fair challenge, and here is why it misses the point. If this were only about money, Iran would not have announced it in Beijing on a public stage in front of the world's cameras. You do not stage a routine discount. You stage a message. The location was the point. Iran chose to say this in China's capital, so that everyone would understand exactly who the favor was for. And if this were only about money, America would not have spent months insisting at the highest level that this specific thing must never happen. Countries do not draw hard red lines around ordinary receipts. They draw them around things that shift power. Washington understood the stakes perfectly. That is why it tried to forbid it in advance. So no, this is not a receipt. A receipt does not break a superpower's promise. A receipt does not need a new government authority to enforce it. A receipt does not get announced in the capital of your most important friend. This was a signal wearing the costume of a fee, and the costume fooled almost everyone. That was the whole idea. Here is the hardest part for Washington, and the reason this move is so clever. America can bomb almost anything in Iran. It has proven that. It has hit bridges, ports and command centers. Its navy has thrown a blockade around Iran's coast. On paper, America has overwhelming power over this small, encircled country. And yet, America cannot stop this particular move. Let me explain why. You cannot bomb a fee. You cannot blockade a discount. The thing Iran gave China is not a building or a weapon that a missile can destroy. It is an arrangement, an understanding, a relationship, and relationships do not sit still waiting to be hit. Worse, every tool America reaches for makes the problem grow. Think about the blockade. America is squeezing Iran's ports to cut off Iran's oil. But who is the biggest buyer of that oil? China. So the tighter America squeezes Iran, the more it also squeezes China, and the more it pushes China and Iran together into exactly the kind of arrangement we are talking about. The pressure meant to break Iran is welding Iran to China instead. And there is the deepest trap of all. To truly stop this, America would have to confront the customer, not just the supplier. It would have to go after China directly over Chinese ships in the middle of a war it is already struggling to end. No American leader wants that. The cost is too high, the risk too wide. So the red line, the one thing America swore to defend, gets crossed, and America is left with no good. So where does this go? Let me give you 3 specific things to watch so that when they happen, you will know what they mean while everyone else is still confused. The first thing to watch is other countries. Once China accepts Iran's special treatment, other nations will start asking a quiet question. If China gets a protected deal to cross the strait, why not us? Watch for more countries quietly seeking their own arrangement with Iran, going around Washington's rule instead of enforcing it. Each one that does makes America's red line matter a little less. Watch how fast the line fades. The second thing to watch is the toll booth itself. Iran has started building an authority to run the strait. Watch whether it grows, watch whether it gains offices, rules, patrols and partners like Oman. Because the moment a checkpoint becomes an institution, it becomes very hard to remove. You can win a battle. It is much harder to unbuild a government office that everyone has started paying. Watch for the toll booth to harden into something permanent. The third thing to watch is the price of oil and who profits from it. Every time this strait gets tense, the price of oil climbs. And when it climbs, certain countries get richer. Watch which governments quietly benefit from the fear in that water, because those are the countries with the least reason to ever calm it down. Follow the money and you will find the real motives. 3 signals: new countries lining up, the toll booth hardening, the oil money flowing. Watch those and you will read this war more clearly than most experts on television. Now let us step back and see the whole board, because this one move is part of something much larger. For most of the last century, one country guaranteed the world's most important waterways. It kept the sea lanes open. It set the rules. Ships passed freely because a single navy made sure they could. That arrangement is how the modern global economy was built, and the country at the center of it was the United States. What you are watching in that narrow strait is a small crack in that arrangement. For the first time in a long time, a different country is setting the rules at one of the world's great choke points. It is deciding who passes, who pays, and who gets protected. And the old guarantor cannot stop it. That is why this matters far beyond oil, far beyond Iran, far beyond one fee. It is a test of whether the old rules still hold or whether a new set of rules, written by a new group of powers, is quietly taking their place. And so far in this strait, the new rules are winning. China understood this. That is why it did not just take the discount. It took the precedent. It helped write the first line of the new rulebook. And precedents, once set, have a way of spreading. So let me leave you with the simple version, the thing to remember when the headlines get loud again. America drew one line: no tolls in Hormuz. Iran crossed it, not with a threat, but with a favor to China. China took the favor, and in taking it, made Iran's control of the strait real. America cannot bomb a favor, cannot blockade a relationship, and cannot confront the customer without starting a bigger war. So the impossible thing happened, and it is quietly becoming permanent. The people who read this as just another war headline will be surprised by everything that comes next. You will not be. Because now you can see the move for what it is: a gift that was really a purchase, a fee that was really a message, a small crack that is really the start of a new map. If this helped you see the picture clearly, do me one favor. Subscribe to the Power Map, because this story is going to keep moving, and I am going to keep tracking every turn of it. And if you want the full framework, the wars, the energy shocks, and the slow handover of power coming between now and 2030, my guide, The Quiet Handover, is linked in the description and the pinned comment. I read your comments, so tell me this. Do you think other countries will now line up for their own deal with Iran, or will they hold America's line? Tell me below. Read the map, not the noise. I will see you in the next one.